Welcome to a new edition of Keefer's Corner. I'm Jeremy Nygaard, that's Nick Pack, and Coach Keefer. Coach, how are we doing tonight?
Doing great.
So we go to St. Croix Central rivalry week, week 9, and played, in my opinion, the closest game, at least for the longest amount of time. A close game. We come out victorious, I think, 35-21, but a game that was 14-13 with 2 minutes left in the third quarter.
Yeah.
So, kind of, what's your recap on Friday night in Hammond?
Well, it was definitely a tough, hard-fought game. We expected a tough game. I mean, Central's tough, and I thought they played well. They had a good plan. They had a couple little things that were pretty successful, moving the ball on us in that first half. I felt like at halftime we got things kind of ironed out a little bit, but it's a hard-fought game. A lot of emotions, I think, on both sides. It's important. It's an important game for both teams, and I think there was maybe a little bit of chippiness, maybe maybe. Yeah, well, there definitely was, and but it's good competition. They're a good team, and we expected a tough game, and we definitely got a tough game.
You want to ask a question?
Yeah, keep going. So football is a weird game too, and we talk about how they come out and a long sustained drive,
right?
Kind of just wearing it down. We talked a lot about how being on defense can kind of wear you down more than an offense for two-way players. It's a long drive, they score. Now they come back, and it's when it's a team that's fighting for their playoff hopes,
right?
It's innings on the table, including onside kick.
Mm-hmm.
And that football isn't round. It's not a golf ball. It's not a basketball. It can bounce anywhere. And that thing was close.
That was a great call. I thought we did the same thing against Columbus a couple of years ago. We got to score early, and that's kind of a thing. That if you feel like you need momentum and keep the thing rolling.
Yeah, it seems like a lot of times that I'm not saying that you're the better team or not, which that can be for whoever to say, but usually if you kind of got to get advantages here and there, that's right. What you're trying to do.
Steal possession.
And they were inches away from getting that.
If you look at that first half, they kept the ball away from us. I don't know how many snaps we had in the first half. It wasn't many. I think it was maybe like 17 snaps.
It was less.
Whatever it was. It wasn't enough, I don't know, did we turn it over in the first half, or was that in the second half?
Those were both second half. First and second drive of the second half.
Yeah.
The first half.
The first drive was boom. We scored, in the second play, and then I think we were okay scoring the set. Did we score on the second drive? And then maybe took one off and scored on the fourth. Does that sound right?
Yeah. So we each had 4 possessions. We scored, punted, scored. And our fourth drive was stopped by time.
Yeah.
So then you get the onside. Well, you actually recovered it. Turns out they also touched it prior to 10 yards.
Right.
And 20 seconds is what they had to lead for. And you score.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, there's good and bad to that. You kind of want to give your defense a break, if you will.
Right.
But then you come answer with a 3-and-out.
Yeah.
So that's probably the best answer right there.
That's right.
As opposed to, scoring is the best answer.
Yeah.
But the 3-and-out is kind of one of those that kind of said, okay, we're back to where we want to be.
Right. No, it was great to, to score. I think it's good for us to also have some adversity, we haven't had a ton of it, but we got plenty of it, Friday night. So first time we were behind, and then, then they fought back, and it was 14-13, like you said, deep into the game. It was good. It was a hard fought game. I felt like we played pretty good defense in that second half. You can't turn the ball over, and usually, if you have a negative differential in the turnover game, you're not going to win very often. And Gavin has been super tight with I don't think he's even fumbled that I'm aware of this year. I think those were the first 2.
So he has not, until Friday. Taden hasn't officially fumbled,
right?
Because the one he did fumble, the whistle blew on. So a backfield.
I don't even remember that.
Do you remember what game that was?
I want to say Osceola.
It was a home game.
Before Osceola.
Okay.
So, but and that he actually said that to me when I saw him later. He's like, I haven't fumbled yet. You haven't mentioned that. I'm like, yeah, Tatum, because if I mention that, you're going to fumble.
Right.
And so you think for the amount of times that those two have carried. Now, there was the mesh fumble.
Yep.
Between the two of them.
Yep.
But if you think about how many times these two have meshed a handoff, to have those two really being the first two that have happened on a run, that's pretty impressive.
That is.
And so we did turn the ball over 2 times in the second half. I actually made the comment to Nick as we came out with the ball in the second half, like, let's make a statement and not do what we did last week, which was come out with an opportunity to kind of kick the door in a little bit, and instead put it on the turf.
I think Gavin had a big run, didn't he? So that was the first turnover, or was that the second one?
The second turnover.
Second one, okay. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, so what, did you have a message for him after that second one?
Well, it's never changes. It's just, we always say, you got to be high and tight with it, and 1 more yard is never worth a fumble. It just isn't, So I think that comment is relevant on the second one, that long run he had. That was an unbelievable run. But, it's like you got to recognize, hey, I'm here, covered up and just take it. That was good, because that's when those fumbles typically occur. Now, the other one was kind of, I don't know, a kid hit him and it just popped out. I don't know if he put his helmet on the ball, or I think that might have been the case, because I think it was, I can't remember what number, maybe it was 28 for Central, hit him and it just popped right out.
Right. The second one, and when I saw him after the game, I'm like, dude, you got to remember, if you're all the way down the field and you got 3 guys here that you're trying to make miss, you got 8 guys, because it was a really good hit by that guy who was running full speed as Gavin has just now stopped, right? And now you're trying to change directions. And I told him, I said, the way that I play football is I would have changed the direction just to step right out of bounds. Right? Live to see another play. And the amount of times that he gets hit hard is not often, because he's very
he's elusive.
I was going to call him slippery. But you do that, but in the back of your mind, you got to remember there's guys coming, and they're usually the big ones. Yep. And I don't want any part of that. So we get past that. We end up expanding the lead after we score and go up. So it's then 21-13. But the second touchdown to me is the one that sticks out, because that was a 4th down play. I think it was 6 from the 6. It was a jet.
Yeah, it was a jet option.
And Dane gets hit by 2 guys at the 10-yard line, which 9 times out of 10, that play's over. And he somehow slips out of the tackle and accelerates across the plane.
Great play.
And I mean, if he gets tackled there, the momentum's going the other direction. And we're talking about
a huge play in the game.
A very different game. But Hawks escape. We take the first undefeated conference season in probably 30 years in conference. And I'm not even sure if that was middle border, if that was the old NFL days.
Yeah.
That didn't last long, because that was a disaster. But the win in the column, but not without losses on the field.
Right. Yeah. Well, we had a couple key guys get injured, with Graydon Monacan and Andrew Thompson both being injured. And, it did kind of put a damper on the celebration at the end, because you care so much about both those guys. And it just, you know how hard they've worked and what they've put into it. I did have a chance to talk with Monacan's post-game, and I got to say they were just, they were so positive and so, upbeat about, winning the conference championship and, celebrate. And, it's, just very, very positive. And I think they're awesome people. And I just really thought that I honestly, after the conversation, I felt better. I really did. It was, I mean, you hurt like heck for Graydon, because he's a great kid. And, obviously we're going to miss him moving forward. We're hopeful that we can get Andrew back, but it doesn't look like Graydon's coming back. But, yeah, it's a team game, and, everybody's together, and when you have such a vital couple pieces, it's tough to swallow.
Yeah, it's just it's tough timing too. I mean, a lot of football teams go through injuries, and it's when it's last regular season game against a rival, clinching the conference, getting into playoffs. That's kind of almost adds to the timing of it, which, I mean, never a good time, don't be wrong, but talk defense real quick. We did say that the defense really took over the second half. We did 14-13.
Mhm.
Come out, fumble, defensive stop.
Mhm.
Big play, fumble, defensive stop. Who kind of led us in tackles? I said you said just got on tackling wise. Who stood out for you? Maybe not leading tackles, but stood out for you.
I thought Tatum Holdorf had a really good game. He made a lot of tackles. Trevor Murdoch, who played most of the game as a defensive lineman, I think he had 9 tackles. Gavin, I think, was close to double digits as well. Dane Vienendahl is another one that had a lot of tackles. Brody Everts. Brody's he's a good player, and he shows up and makes a lot of plays. So, I mean, there were a lot of guys that played well. Graydon had an interception. Also had, I think he had 3 tackles, 3 assisted tackles. He's a very sure tackler, and that's a big deal. So, a lot of guys I thought stepped up. There were a couple little schematic things, without getting into a whole big deal, but I think we were a little bit more sound with what we were doing. And, a lot of that, they were doing a little quarterback run. They had like a little trips bunch thing. And then the quarterback, we hadn't really seen him run out of that much. But I think they were hoping to get outside. And I think, our linebackers they were running over the top. And, easy cutback. It's just like, if we played that a little bit more inside out, that wouldn't have been a big deal. But we didn't, and we got it communicated, and it's helpful when you can show a kid on the sideline, hey, look, this is where it's going. This is where you are. You need to be back here. That helps. So, and then there were a couple of little things that we did too, but it was good. It was some good adjustments.
Yeah, I think we called it the cornerback counter when they ran out of trips.
Mm-hmm.
Seemed to be successful right away, and then. Mm-hmm. Kind of okay, we've seen it now. Fool us a couple times, but we'll adjust. I don't know. I know Jeremy's a big statistics guy. I don't know if you keep it as far as time of possession. I'd be interested to see time of possession not only last week but for the season. I mean, it seems like a lot of teams come in and they try and have long, sustained, plays, not necessarily possessions. And then we can strike so quick. I mean, if you had to guess, would you think it'd be about 50-50 despite the fact that you way outscored? Do you think you might be?
I would bet it would be pretty, I don't know. We've had some teams that have had some drives, but I bet it's not 50-50 because, if you think about it, we've played 7 games. I know 5 of the opponents didn't score in the first half, so they didn't, I'm sure they had, I'm not saying they did get some first downs, but and we've had some pretty explosive plays, but I've also feel like there have been numerous occasions, like Somerset comes to mind, we were able to, run the ball out, like we had that last drive, it was a long drive, and I think it took like half the quarter. I think we had a fairly long drive against Central too,
Yeah, if you just look at
maybe I'm wrong, I don't know.
The amount of plays.
Yeah, that's different because we probably snap it a little more frequently. We'll get more plays off, but maybe not possession.
Right, but if you think about Friday, not only did you not have the same amount of plays, I bet you Central maybe had 2.5 times the amount of offensive plays that we had.
For sure in the first half. I don't know, was the second half?
Yeah, because we
felt like it was still pretty unbalanced in the second half.
Yeah, it was closer to balance, but I would have
thought the second half was
130 plays a game. Mm-hmm. Right?
Yeah.
And I would guess of those 130 this week, we probably ran closer to 50 than half, right? And that means that Central's running 80 plays. That's a significant gap. And
I don't think they had 80.
Well,
I think we could figure that out.
Yeah. I mean, if I had my stat sheet right next to me, add up the runs, add up the passes, and it gives you a pretty good idea. And the thing that stands out to me, though, is even though we're not playing with that same pace that we played with in the last couple of years, Central would huddle, right? They'd run to the sideline, they'd get the play, they'd run back in.
Yep.
Prescott did that kind of similar thing. I guess I don't know if Central did that as much, but you're signaling a play, and we're never getting to I shouldn't say never, but very rarely are we getting to where we see the back just put his hand up. Right, so we're running plays quicker too. So the time of possession, is going to be
we're not worried about winning the time of possession. I mean,
it doesn't matter.
no. We do want to run a lot of plays. I mean, that's
Right.
That's true.
But do you want to? I mean, do you want to run a lot of plays if you can say, well, we're going to take the ball to 49 and it's going to take us 2 only because Gavin got tackled at the 1?
Yeah.
Right? I mean, that was the thing that you said with the 2008 and 2010 team. Like, we're going to score
Fast.
and then I want to score again within 4 minutes?
Yeah.
I mean, that was your goal. We're going to get the ball back and we're going to score again right away.
Yeah.
And we did that. And I think that just it kind of destroys your will to play when that's happening. And the other team notices that and they're like, if we can just pump the brakes a little bit and not let that team get in a groove,
Mm-hmm.
and Central, when they're going 4 yards, 4 yards, 4 yards, the thing that would really irritate me if I was a fan that wore blue is the punts. Because there was 2 times that they punted where I'm like, why don't you just wave the white flag prematurely?
Mm-hmm.
Because it's high school football, right? This isn't. We're not going to flip the field like by booming 165 yards, right? We're gonna hope that we can get the punt off, which they almost didn't on the first
Mm-hmm.
one. And then if we get a lucky roll and they don't pick it up, maybe we've moved the ball 25 yards. If you're down 1 point and you're approaching midfield, knowing that the other team's going to score, whether it's 80 or 40, why punt? I mean, were you surprised by that?
Maybe a little. There was a couple times I was like, I thought maybe they'd go, but whatever. I mean, that's not saying they're wrong. I mean, who knows? I mean, obviously they felt like they had a good, it's true. I mean, it's a true statement. Anytime you punt the ball, you are reducing the chances of your opponent scoring, right? I mean, so, they're probably confident that, hey, you can stop these guys, so that's probably the mindset. I mean, I'm not saying that that we're agreeing with them on that, but
I feel like if your offense is going to get 3 yards, 3 yards, 4 yards, you're not calling your plays differently, but you get 1 extra play if you're going to go on 4th down.
Mm-hmm.
If you decide to always go for it on 4th down, your play calls would be a little bit different on 1st, 2nd, 3rd. Right? I mean, and so to me that was like, you got a chance to do something here, make a difference,
Mm-hmm.
beat a team that you're not expected to beat, and you're not going to do that if you punt from your own 40.
Yeah.
I mean, there's things done. There's research done on this. There's a coach. I don't know if it's Ohio or Pennsylvania.
Never punts. Yeah.
Never punts.
Yep.
That's just the game plan.
Yep.
And the expectancy, the point expectancy, like that's a successful program.
Mm-hmm.
Now I feel like you don't do that if you got a bunch of bums, right? You got to have the personnel, but to in my opinion, kind of give up twice there, because even late in the game, it's like if you felt like you had any chance to win, you go for it, right? You can't. You're not scoring points unless you have the ball.
Yeah.
So, all right, enough about Central. Friday night ends. Saturday morning rolls around. Now, back in the day, the transition from Friday to Saturday was fun because we knew at some point, midnight, 12:30, 1 o'clock, the field is coming out.
Right.
That would give us an idea of the Prescotts of this year. Are they D4 or are they D5? Right. And then we would wait even later into the night, and then sometimes late the parents would come out.
Mm-hmm.
That was fun.
That was fun. That was always a late night. You're staying up, just to see. It was fun. It was fun to speculate,
and now we don't get any of that.
No,
we get the try to crack the WIA's air and figure out what site they didn't accidentally turn off, right? But this year they ruined it for themselves, and they sent emails out right after 7 a.m. to the ADs, so everybody knew who they were going to play. We draw. Well, we can go further into depth on this. We draw Connell Falls,
right? 3.5
hours to the east, and they're going to drive to King Field on Friday night. You exchanged the last 2 weeks of film.
Yep.
And so I'm assuming you've devoured two games minimum of Connell Falls.
Yep.
What have you seen from the? I think they're the Panthers too, right?
I don't know that they're the Panthers. I couldn't tell. They had something on their field that looked like a cat, so it could be a panther.
Yeah, I think
makes sense.
I did the graphic already, and I forget it. But
sure.
What'd you see from?
Well, I saw a team that was in their last two games, they completely dominated their opponents. They played Northland Pines, and then they played Manawa. I believe both those schools are smaller schools. Their enrollment's significantly smaller, like 200 or so. They, I believe, are the biggest school in their conference, in the Northwoods Conference. Their enrollment's 533. They've scored. They're the seventh highest scoring team in the state, so they've put up a lot of numbers. They lost to Coleman, which is a D6 powerhouse. They're a very good team. That was their only loss, and to be honest with you, they have not had a close game other than that one loss. So they've been having their way with people. They have 25 seniors, from Wisp Sports, just going through looking at the roster. They're a double wing team. That's their primary set. So similar to GET, because I don't know if everybody knows what double wing is, but they're going to be foot to foot or close to foot, and they run some counter stuff, some toss stuff. Quarterback will lead up on plays, but they will also break out of that, do some stuff out of the shotgun, and spread you out and try to throw a little bit. So looks like they're playing a 4-2-5 defense, and they have some good linebacker play. They have some kids that look like they have a D lineman that looks really good. They have a DN that looks good. One D tackle looks really good. They're a good team, man. They're 8-1, and I'm sure they're feeling really good about themselves. When you running clock, your last two opponents, things are going good for you. Mm-hmm. So we're going to have to be sharp, and it'll definitely be a contrast in styles. I would expect that they're going to huddle and they're going to be a little more methodical, and they would like to do the central plan of slowly moving the ball down the field, and we'll obviously try to speed that up. So it'll be a clash of different styles of football for sure.
And you got to believe if you're O'Connell Falls, you're saying, well, hey, we're 8-1 overall. Are we getting disrespected here? Why are we getting a 7 seed? Not only getting a 7 seed, but got to drive, would you say, 3.5 hours? Right. And I thought that was kind of weird on the 8 teams that made our bracket.
Yeah.
You have 4 middle border teams, correct?
Yep.
And 4 non-middle border teams, we'll just say. None of them play each other.
I think it's awesome.
The only downside of that is you got 4 teams Friday night that are traveling. Probably the closest one I want to say is probably a couple hours.
Yeah.
So I can see how they would maybe say, okay, let's put, make it so that Central gets the 7 seed so they don't have to travel 3 hours. But yeah, on the flip side, maybe that's saying, hey, middle border, again, last year, all your losses came to either middle border or,
right.
Somerset last year went 2 weeks in a row,
right,
how far down, and right, 2 upsets, if you will. So they're coming in thinking we should be maybe higher seed. What's the different attitude in the Baldwin Woodville locker room now? You're the 2 seed. Last couple of years, 2 years ago, the 5 seed. You went to Adams Friendship. Last year, the 4 seed. So the target really wasn't on your back per se. Is there a different attitude as to when they're coming after you?
Yeah, I don't really think there is a different attitude with our kids. It's we talked about whatever seed we got. Whether it's a 2 or a 1 or whatever, it means nothing because you have to win. And you can look at the history of the tournament, and it's not like all the number 1 seeds are always the ones that advance. In fact, there are many years that they don't, none of them advance. So if you think that entitles you to wins, you're wrong. You got to go out and play. And what you have to understand, I think, with playoffs is the urgency that if you don't bring it, you're done. So you have to be focused, and you can't ever overlook anything. Stranger things have happened, man. Last year, 8 seeds beat 1 seeds. That stuff happens. That could happen again this year. I would not be surprised to see that. It's how you approach the game. Don't think the number next to your name in the bracket means anything, because it really doesn't matter. You got to win. You got to win. And obviously, as you progress, you're going to run into tougher and tougher teams. That's just the way it is. So I feel I thought they were. I was fine with our bracket. I didn't think there was. I was thrilled that the middle border schools get to play other teams. In fact, last summer at the All-Star game, there was some of the district reps were kind of talking and talking about playoffs. And one of the things I spoke up, I said, I think it's ridiculous. We played 3 conference schools in the playoffs. It's like the middle border conference tournament. That's not the way it should be. The argument being, maybe they should seed not just 1 through 8 or seed 1 through 16 or 1 through 32. I'd really love to see them do that. Now, the counter argument might be there's more travel, but is it really? I mean, they've done, they've looked at what it would be, if they did seed it, and, the travel was actually negligibly different, not much at all. I think that would be cool for kids, but I'm thrilled for the middle border that we got 4 different opponents, 4 different conferences that are going to be, getting a shot at. Obviously, Ellsworth playing Mosinee. That'll be interesting to see how that thing shakes out. You got Prescott and Seymour, which will be interesting, and then you got Central going to Freedom. And I'll tell you what, that'll be a similar kind of deal where I'm sure Central's going to try to just grind it on Freedom,
right?
And so it'll be interesting.
Well, and we went to 2 years ago, right? There was three middle border teams that played South Central teams.
Yeah,
middle border went 3-0.
Right.
The part that is hard for me, and you and I have talked about this, how the WIAA seeds. It used to be very straightforward. It wasn't a great process because it was like if you're an undefeated, you're that's the top. If you're an undefeated conference team, and then by non-conference. And so if you were in a weaker conference, you automatically kind of went to the top. And so it was pretty easy to predict upsets because you would take teams out of really, really strong conferences, right, and they would be a low seed, and then they would win predictably over a higher seed. And then did they go from there then to seeding meetings, or did we skip over that? Did you've done seeding meetings?
Yes. We used to do seeding meetings where the coaches literally would they'd set the region. This is your eight teams, and then people would, present their case. The coaches would vote, and the reason I think that went away, although I liked it, I absolutely liked it, but I think there were certain regions where conferences would kind of band together,
100%,
and they would, try to give them, a more favorable pathway,
which is exactly what would have happened if you put these 8 coaches in. The middle border coaches would have been able to basically set the bracket.
Yeah,
and you probably wouldn't have set it super different from how it is, but you would have made sure that you matched that it wasn't middle border versus middle border, because that's what the middle border would have wanted, right? To get. And so I think
honestly, when I approached it back in that era, I literally tried to look at like who. All right. You take into account like who they played, their scores,
yep,
and then how good is their league, your perception of their league,
yep,
and then you try to. I never ever like said, oh hey, I don't want to play this team, so I'm going to try to screw them, and because
but that appeal process,
some people did obviously.
That appeal process works very differently from a team that has 4 people that know about the 4 other teams than the 4 teams that don't know anything about anybody.
Right.
And we saw that in basketball a lot because it was basically 7 middle border teams and then 5 Heart of the North teams and then 1 like Clover Belt team. And so we very much knew as a conference that we could manipulate that, or at least have a say in making it how we thought. And so to go away from that, I think is fine. Now we know the criteria that the WI uses, and from my perspective, it's junk.
Yeah.
Because we have a team over on the other side of the state who we saw, Columbus, not lose a game this year.
Right.
Beat La Crosse Aquinas, who has 1 loss this year, and La Crosse Aquinas is 1 in their region, and Columbus is 2.
Makes 0 sense.
And so, like, there's numbers available for, record versus playoff field, record, or like opponents' winning percentage, opponents, and so those are readily available on the WI website.
Right.
And so if you take all of these numbers, and there's some other numbers that they don't share with you, like conference success in the playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
And there's like program success in the playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
So those are variables that we don't know about. But if you take and line up Aquinas and Columbus, how does Aquinas get the bump over Columbus? There's one number that they have that's stronger. But if you do the same thing with us and Freedom, we had that same number higher than Freedom. So what are these variables?
I have no idea.
And if you have no transparency,
there's zero.
Who does that really irritate? Everybody.
Yeah.
Like you go to the WI or the Wiz Sports where they release the brackets, and it's just people like, are you serious? You got this team ahead of this team? Like, what are these computers? Why don't they do a thing? And we used to joke, we used to laugh at like the BCS stuff that the college football used to do.
Yep.
You'd put this stuff out and they'd have these rankings, and it's like, well, what does it mean? How about put something out periodically through the season so you can see where you are? Because you might not care about the coaches poll,
mm-hmm.
but I feel like you would look at that and be like, oh, that's interesting. They have us here, right? If it's the computer ranking, know what you got to do. At least know. So when how much did the Mount Horeb loss hurt us?
Obviously, it hurt us.
How much did the Columbus loss hurt Aquinas?
Obviously, it hurt them.
So that's the part where I just right. I'm a math guy. I'm a numbers guy.
Mm-hmm.
Have some sort of thing.
Yeah.
Like
I agree. I mean, I don't. I'm not thrilled. I think most of the coaches aren't exactly thrilled because, like your example of Aquinas getting beat by Columbus, right? And that's the only loss they have all year. And now you put Aquinas as the 1 and Columbus as a 2. That's indefensible, in my opinion.
And I don't think there's a easy fix, but manipulate this, manipulate that. What I would like to see is what they have kind of now. That's fine. And then reveal your bracket to your coaches with, here's the seeding we have. Now go back to that appeal process. You can appeal one up. So they get 1 through 8. I don't know if they do this in football. I know in basketball you could. So you would rank, you'd sit in your coaches meeting, right? You'd rank them all and say you got the 2 seed, but you feel like you should be the 1. You can make an appeal for the 1, and it goes to those coaches. Then you say, hey, you got your 5 minutes, whatever it is. We're Columbus. We feel we should be the 1 because we're undefeated and we beat the 2 seed. Period.
Right.
And then the other coaches get to go and anonymously vote, and then boom, that's it. You can't go up or down more than 1. So, but I don't know if that's something that.
Yeah, I think logistically that would be very difficult to do, just because you play Friday games and the quick turnaround. We have to get ready for our opponent, and I think that if how many conferences there are, and I think that would be very difficult.
So here's the solution.
Logistically,
you release the field Friday night like you always have. You release the group of 8 Friday night like they used to, and then at 9:00 you get on a Zoom meeting. 180 hosts it. You get the rankings from, like, that doesn't take long at all to spit out. All the numbers are in. You press a button. You rank them by the order. So there's going to be 8 coaches, right? And here's what you do: you take whatever the WI says, and what you give that 30% of the weight, and then the coaches each get their ranking 1 through 7. And then you average them out, so the computer plays a part. But there's no way that 8 coaches are going to sit there and come up with Columbus, you're just not as good as the team that you beat.
You're never going to make everybody happy. That'll never happen. I mean, I'm not saying that's not a bad idea, but even if you go to the coaches thing, their coaches, they'll be ticked off that we got railroaded, because these guys, it's the same argument why they got rid of it before, because people are going to band together and that's why it went away. So I don't know.
How about you let some people that the problem that I have is this is their job.
Yeah.
and they're not very good at it, you could get 8 random dudes around the state, and we would do a much better job. And I'm saying we because I would be one of those 8. It's.
I'm just gonna worry about coaching our team.
Right.
That's what I'm gonna do.
And
I hear you.
To me, it's like this time of the season is super fun.
It is.
And when we sit around, you less so, you listen, but we sit around and talk about this stuff, it takes a little bit off of that, because now Columbus is going to have to go to Aquinas, which they earn the right to host that game, to play for a level 4. I do like the idea of seeding 1 through 32, or at least seeding 1 through 16, and then using proximity like in the past, because that way you would get a better idea. How Columbus ended up in our region 2 years ago is always going to make me scratch my head, aside from the fact that I think they wanted Columbus across from Catholic Memorial. And so there's just so much stuff that is infuriating, because it's like, obviously you got to win the game, but when it's the idea is to be fair, and it's not, maybe not fair, equal, and it's not. It's just, it makes it hard. It shouldn't be harder for one team to make it state than the other team. True. Just based on the draw of the computer. Right. And that's how it's done.
I actually feel like it was favorable for us. I do.
I think I told you that exact same thing, right? This is a great draw.
It's one of the first times I've come out of the seating meeting not feeling like, oh, we got, like, that wasn't a good draw for us. I feel like this was a good draw.
The last time we were 2, do you remember when that was?
The last time what?
We were the 2 seed?
No, I don't. What was that?
The year we hosted Wrightstown on a Saturday afternoon.
Oh, that's right. That's right.
I don't remember who we beat.
Yep, I do remember that.
Level 1, but we played Wrightstown.
Yeah, we got beat at our place. Wrightstown was tough. I think Wrightstown, did they win it?
No, they went to level 4 and lost to Kiel, I think. Or they lost. Their Kiel went to. They made it either to level 4 or they didn't make it to state.
Okay.
But yeah, they were really good that year, and I believe, if my history is correct, O'Connell Falls used to be in that conference with Freedom, Wrightstown, that group of teams. So later in the day, Saturday, then the Badgers played.
Yeah. Yeah, they played great defense. They really did. I mean, it's 3 weeks in a row. They played good D.
Is this
running the ball a little bit? You know, they were still, I didn't think, great on offense. But, you know, I feel like defensively against, you know, I don't know if Northwestern's a great team. I do know this. Northwestern's run defense was number 9 in the nation, and they ran the ball pretty effectively against them. So I'm starting to get a little bit more confidence in the running game there.
This is not really related, but did you ever go to Northwestern when Jake was?
Yes.
And they had that hideous stadium.
Yes.
And now built in basically on the lake.
Right. It's going to be cool, but, you know, like, I think they played in front of 12,000 people. I mean, it's a temporary, you know, setup that they played in.
Oh, so that's not even there.
That's not it.
Are they gonna build one on them?
Maybe they are adding on to that. I could be wrong on that, but
because it's open on the one side, which is the lake side, which looks super cool.
Yeah, that's their practice area. I'm pretty sure that's their practice thing. I think they have a different facility, but I'm not positive.
Okay. And then after Saturday, did you watch the big game on Saturday?
The Alabama. Or no, the
Georgia, Texas?
Yeah, Georgia, Texas. Yeah, I had it on. I was actually, you know, obviously looking at the O'Connell Falls stuff, but I had it on, so I was kind of...
Texas is not the team that I maybe thought they were.
Yeah. Or maybe Georgia's just really good, you know. To go down and, you know, go to Texas and beat them is pretty impressive.
Right. And then Sunday happens.
Yeah. Well, it was an exciting game. I don't think the Packers played very well, you know, but... You know, hey, you beat a really good team in the Houston Texans, so that's great. You know, it tightens up the race a little bit with the Vikings losing a close one to Detroit. So it's going to be fun. I mean, all 3 of those teams are good teams, and Chicago's not. You know, we'll see about Chicago. I think they're going to come back to I think the real world's going to.
Their next 4 is a brutal stretch. I think.
Is it?
Yeah, I think so. If I didn't watch any football yesterday. I was in the gym, but yeah. So
no.
So most importantly, though, I know we have St. Croix Apparel. Is it still St. Croix Apparel? I know it used to be Dolls, but now it's someone else.
Johnson.
Could can we get you a new shirt?
Well, yeah.
I mean, nothing against the 2019, but
in fact, I just talked to them. Today, and we're going to get, we'll get the Middleborough Conference championship shirts out, and you'll be able to order them online and get them right through them direct. Then, if kids want to get them at the school, they can, they'll just deliver them to the school with your name on it, and we'll get that rolling. So that's
bring them to King Field on Friday and sell them to the fans as they come.
Yeah, they'll go like crazy. They'll go like hotcakes.
It's got to be exciting to talk about the target on your back, but potentially, going into it, that you could have 2 more home games in front of what fills up very quickly.
Yeah,
a King Field and a very, very loud and fun crowd to play for.
Our crowd's been fantastic. I mean, it's like you look up, and our stuff is always full. I mean, we have big bleachers, and those darn bleachers are full. And then I looked at Central's bleachers the other night. They did not have a great turnout. And just Baldwin Central, I would have thought that thing was going to be just crazy. But, they haven't had quite they lost Amory last week. I don't know if that took a little of the, excitement out of it for some folks. But, yeah, we're really lucky. I feel like we really have tremendous support. And it's fun. Yeah, it's exciting. You never know. I mean, who knows? The best case scenario for us would be that we would win again next week, and then who knows, if we're the highest seed standing, we could host a 3rd game. That'd be sweet. You never know.
Yeah, so and how many years has it been since going back in playoffs? We talk about different ways to seed. I know it used to be if you won round 1 and you didn't host, you could host in round 2, regardless of the seed. And they got away from that a while ago. But
yeah, they did.
That was crazy.
It was. It was a little different. But I don't know how they had some strange things, but this makes more sense. You should reward teams that had the better year. You should get to host. You shouldn't have to,
because then you would have the 3 seed sometime opting to travel to the 6 seed on week 1, because then they could host the 2 seed week 2, and it's like, okay, that's dumb. But yeah, so I got nothing else, Jeremy. On to you.
Yeah, no, I just hope we have enough space on my phone to record all this. So if not, it's going to cut at some point, and it's just going to have to end. So for Coach Keefer, for Nick Pack, I'm Jeremy Nagar. This is Keeper's Corner. We'll see you at King Field on Friday night. So long.